As I was sitting there, I saw a lot of women power in this organization. And it's wonderful that this organization exists, because Alaska could not be what it is, as strong as the women are in the state. So thank you for inviting me to be an inductee into this organization. Pakalakpak kivse, uvanga Iñupiaq urunga, ut kaving miu, andinga runga ut kaving ni. Asi uvlupak, uvam malikan nga ilang ma, Steve MacLean, makitin apa nga neklekto ma, asi sili ataraga nukaluga Beverly Ahgeak nukaluga, asi Edna, Steve MacLean, Tubakata Joanne Mellish, asi Tutaluga Sirauna MacLean, asi sili Anyaga Alice Glenn Makitin Smitkovich, Kana Alice Glenn Anyaga, my cousin, and also Edith Border-Strauss, one of my nieces. Yeah. I am very honored to be here, thinking of all the women that have done so much work for the state of Alaska. And when I think back at the life of my aunt, Ahgeak, who was a magistrate of Barrow for many years, I think of the many hours that she spent in the courts talking, counseling many of the residents of Barrow during her life as magistrate in Barrow, Alaska. And also, I saw Emily Brown's picture in the members of the organization. She spent so many years as a teacher in Ahgeak on the North Slope, and she was always very enthusiastic about coming to the Iñupiaq classes that we had at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So there's a lot of strength in the women of Alaska. So thank you. As when I stand here thinking of my preparation as an adult to teach at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, when Dr. Krause asked me to come and teach Iñupiaq language at the university, I said I can't. I don't know how to read and write in Iñupiaq. And I was over 30 years old. And that's a reflection of the type of education that many Alaska Native students had, my age group and younger. There was a great deal of mental anguish, I guess, mental abuse and physical abuse that went on in our schools in rural Alaska. And I cannot stand here and not say that, because it has a great deal of effect on the educational achievement of Alaska Natives. When I think back at the history of education in rural Alaska, it's enough to anger me, because there was so much potential, and if only we had been taught in our language and our culture, and also incorporated our communities into the schools, think of how much more we could have contributed to the state of Alaska and to other Inuit in the circumpolar north, in our case, as Iñupiaq, in Canada and in Greenland. So it's a bittersweet memory, I would say. I enjoy reading in English, talking in English, but at the same time, I wish I had had more of my culture and my language in my early elementary grades. And I have to thank Dr. Krause, who was the linguist at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, who taught me how to read and write. It was a tool that I needed to experience joy in learning more about my language, the structure of Iñupiaq. And it's, for him, I owe him a great deal. And for those who were my students at the University of Alaska, I've enjoyed working with them. And also, to this day, I'm mentoring 3 young women to learn Iñupiaq here in Anchorage. And I have 2 of them here. One is traveling, and she's speaking Iñupiaq, I guess, in Whitehorse to other Iñupiaq students or other Iñupiaq people who are at the same meeting that she is. But tonight, we have Maktoyuk, Melissa Heflin. She's teaching at the University of Alaska Anchorage. She's teaching Iñupiaq. And then there's Ahgeak, Allison Warden. Many of you know her through her performances, and she incorporates Iñupiaq in her performances. So I'm very thankful for it's my pleasure. We have a lot of fun learning Iñupiaq over my kitchen table. So thank you for coming. And also, in the work that I've done over the years and the completion of the Iñupiaq language, I've felt so much joy doing the research and knowing how the structure of Iñupiaq tells us so much about ourselves, about the worldview that we have, the cultural practices that we have, and also an understanding of how Iñupiaq interacted with each other in the educational, social, and cultural institution that we had called the Kargi. But unfortunately, there was a great deal of other practices being held in there, like religion, and at that time it was shamanism, but with the advent of the missionaries, it became so that we were undergoing a period of, I guess, transformation of thinking, and also going through periods of questioning ourselves as Iñupiaq people and our culture and our language. So it's been a growing experience, not just for me, but for many members of our communities. So we're very, I guess, involved in our case, on the North Slope, the Presbyterian Church, and I was so honored to meet Alice Green, who began her missionary work in Alaska, in St. Lawrence Island. And through that experience, we've come to embrace Christianity and also the fellowship that can occur through a community like a church, where you encounter a common feeling of enjoyment and also spirituality. And I asked one person before, an older man who I was interviewing and recorded for about 30 years, he said, there's one power in the whole world, and you can access it so many ways, and it's all to the power of the people, and also for all people to come together as one group, and knowing each other. So in a sense, we've kind of fit ourselves into that whole scheme of maybe the power of the world, the power of the universe. So in that sense, I've come to, I guess, accept the history that we have and to cast it aside if there's any feeling that we've encountered and that has hampered us in our growth as a people, then we need to embrace that new level of understanding that we need to have as people, respecting each other. So we try really hard, I think, as Iñupiaq, to hold on to that feeling and to help us grow instead of keeping us down. So, and I really enjoy remembering my parents, and I know I stand on my mother's footsteps because she spent so much time working. And my father was a hunter. They instilled in us a work ethic. I think as siblings with my sister there, that we learned from them. So the first learning begins at home, and I think hope I've followed it to the satisfaction of my father, because his anti-hero was a lazy person. So, thank you.